Greetings. This is Graham Warren, working with you on the Antico, Caffe, Greco case, also known as the ACG case. This coffee shop is the world's second oldest. It's located in Rome, near the Spanish Steps in Italy. It's served some illustrious patrons. It's also one of the largest private art galleries in Rome and maybe Italy. And it's got a very high rent. This number of 120,000 euros was something I found in a blog article from in late 2022. And you can take a look at its menu. Maraschino costs 10 euro, excuse me. And what to know about this coffee shop? Well, because of the high rent, management is interested in having a review done of it, the way it operates. And so the way it does operate is it makes these espresso-based beverages in addition to pastry items and other drinks. But it's the espresso-based beverages that are the target of our study. And so this cafe is staffed by 3 baristas. Each of these baristas can be thought of as serving a dedicated collection of tables. So, for example, barista 1 might serve tables 1 through 10, barista 2 tables 11 through 20, and so forth. These order streams that they are seeing can be considered statistically identical, and the baristas themselves can be considered statistically identical. So what we know about this operation is that, if I scroll down here just a little ways, you'll see that I'm told that arrivals to each of these baristas occurs at the rate of 26.4 orders per hour, and they're able to serve 41.1 orders per hour. And that is refined a little bit for us, that last bit of information. We learned that on average, the orders take 87.6 seconds to make, but these folks are all over the park. There's a standard deviation of 83 seconds. So one of the reasons for that is these baristas have received basic barista training, in which they learned what the different beverages are, how to use the equipment to make them, but they're not in that sort of next level where they can do the latte art. Their leadership skills are muted, and sort of managing or starting a coffee shop, those skills are just not in place yet. They can be for a fee of $26.50 and a 10-week experience. The coffee shop would have to pay, ACG would have to pay the €26.50, and then the baristas would be on the hook for a 10-week commitment, 50 hours. But it's a sort of a coaching, sort of growing them. It's a formative experience, and they would of course be some technique training to do with the latte art, but also just discussing sort of positioning and trying to build refinement and leadership skills. So that's possible if they get the training. What would be nice is that their standard deviation of their service times would drop drastically to 8.3 seconds, so 90% drop in the variance, in the standard deviation. They would also be subject to maybe slightly higher turnover risk because they would look attractive as hires by other coffee shops, and there would be a small risk that they would just decide to go and start their own coffee shop. All right, so the details, we will exploit this 87.6 and 83. What else to know about this coffee shop? So it is, extremely old. It's a tourist attraction. The coffee isn't exceptional. It's reasonable. You can take a look at TripAdvisor reviews on this. A lot of the folks who go in there, the tourists at least, are a little shocked by pricing. But they have to cover those high rents, and it is a historical site with essentially an art museum thrown in. So this is not the coffee shop in the museum. This is the museum in the coffee shop, right? That's the difference. And of course you've got all these illustrious patrons and a story to tell, perhaps if you think it's relevant around that. 2 types of customers. This is the tourists, the sightseers. And then also, if you take a look at the Google map, and you could pull this up on your own, of course, just confirm that. In fact, there's a lot more names than the ones I've listed here, but Balenciaga, Bulgari, Cartier, Gucci, Jimmy Choo, Louis Vuitton, and so forth, have locations around Antico, Caffe, Greco, and those customers that shop in those locations are doing coffee in ACG, and perhaps have a slightly different agenda. They're less there to, they're not there, they're less there to be seen, to see than to be seen, perhaps. And so maybe slightly different expectations with regard to wait times. But we don't have any better information on that, and you could do your own research. Okay, so what does management want to know about this? Broadly, anything related to improving the customer experience. Do they have too many baristas? Not enough? Are they handling the orders correctly? Is there any room for expanding the business without hiring more staff? Should they be training these baristas? Should they be automating this process by bringing in some sort of automatic equipment rather than have them use these sort of historical coffee bars, which are called Venus Arduinos. They're new and they're available. And I think last time I checked, they ran about 40,000 euro to buy one of these things. So they sort of appropriate visually, for the setting. But one question you could ask here is, should you just be automating? So, you could have a situation where folks come in, they get a table, they scan a QR code, have their order join a queue, and it just gets knocked out by some sort of automatic coffee machine, and then maybe delivered to the table by a human wait person. But that's an option, right? Automation. So should they train? Should they automate? Are they handling the orders correctly? What about the number of baristas? Too many, too few? We'll look into this. Okay, so that's in essence the challenge you're facing. And in the next clip, we're going to look at the base case and how to analyze that.